we say a very good morning to a man in a hurry. Matthew Torbitt, former Labour advisor. How are you, kiddo?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. We've also got Trevor Kavanagh. I'm in the middle there on the right and the left. Morning, Trev. How are you?
Good morning. Hi.
I'm good. Fantastic to have you here. Where do you want to start? Let's start with, I mean, what a week to take off, not. The whole royal debacle. Tom Tugendhat was on the show this morning. He says it could go as far as treason. We have to be careful because of, you know, the ongoing saga. But I have I'm a royalist, but I believe the monarchy is in real trouble.
I would agree. I think this can't help but impact other aspects of the monarchy because it will open up questions for people of what did they know? Did they know? There's definitely potential to tarnish the Queen's legacy. I'm not a massive royalist, but I respect what the Queen did and the service that she gave, and I think most people did. She paid him 12 million. Ultimately, he's not been arrested for offences related to Virginia Giuffre or anything else at the moment. But ultimately, he paid off her with money his mother lent him or gave him as a gift. And that's dirty money, that's tarnished money. I think people probably didn't like it in the first place. Looks even worse now.
To be honest, Trev, and I said it at the time, I don't mean to be rude, can I borrow 12 million? What for? OK, so you don't pay somebody off unless you've got something of a conscience, and we have to be careful. But and the Queen, I'm with Matt, we all love the Queen, but the problem now is they think that Charles was aware, that implicates him, that tarnishes him. And I said it earlier, it might be that the only way to save the monarchy is for Charles to fall on his sword and to start with a clean slate with William and Kate.
Well, you said a mouthful there, Jeremy, including the position of the Queen, who I think is being looked at in a slightly different light today than she was in the period up to and after her death. I mean, Andrew is the product of this mess, which the Queen bequeathed to him. He was spoiled by the Queen, spoiled, literally rotten. And I think that you're right also that the spotlight now falls on Charles. And as I think I've mentioned before, there were questions over the Fortnum and Mason carrier bags full of brand new euros, 3 million euros worth, that he carted away from Abu Dhabi after a visit there. So these sort of things will spread. This is going to go on for a very long time. If Andrew ends up in court, it won't be soon. It will probably be at the end of possibly another 6 months, 12 months of investigation, during which this stench will continue to haunt the royal family and indeed politics. I think the big question that nobody's asking is, why is Andrew in police under questioning? Why isn't Peter Mandelson, who I think in many ways has, as far as we know, allegedly done even worse in terms
Well, can I jump in and put that to Matt, because I think Trevor's absolutely right. I'm not sticking up in any way for that thing, but how is Mandelson still in his massive mansion in Wiltshire? Why hasn't he had his collar felt at 8 o'clock in the morning?
I can only assume, with no prior knowledge, that they're different police forces. I think the Met were looking into Peter Mandelson. This was Thames Valley Police, so slightly different investigations, slightly different forces. My understanding from reports is Mandelson will be invited in, or whether that be arrested or voluntary interview, in the next 2 to 3 weeks. So I think it is coming. And I think, again, it will be a similar offence of misconduct in public office rather than anything with regards to sexual impropriety with Epstein or anything other.
It's astonishing, though, Trev. I bet in all of your lifetime you've never seen anything like this. I mean, it rocks. And the thing that I wanted to say to you both is that I get all the time now from people is make people start to question almost everything about our establishment, not just the royal family, but who knew what, who goes where, who gets dirty little secrets covered up. My old man said to me once, and he worked for the Queen Mother, the best Jeremy Kyle show that you never did was the royal family, because they are more messed up than anybody else. And it does make you think, right?
No, I mean, they've got money, but they're a family like anyone else with their dysfunctionality and arguments and whatever else that goes on behind closed doors. And I think that's ultimately the thing. These are human beings like anyone else. And I think that the thing that gets people most annoyed, and the reason I was most shocked he actually was arrested, albeit not charged at the moment, is I feel immune, and I think most people do, to essentially wealthy elites who seem to have, throughout my period of life, and no doubt yours and anyone else in history, have a different set of rules to those of us lower down the food chain when it comes to the law.
I agree, and I have to say, Trevor, I think that is, I mean, Sun readers would be put in this absolutely. The hard-working alarm clock working Brits are suddenly going, whether it's immigration or it's the royal family or it's the whole thing, they're going, hold on a minute, we've only ever lived our lives correctly, and we seem to, what the hell is going on? I think that's a general consensus, don't you think, Trevor?
Well, I think that they are a family, of course, and as Matt says, like anyone else, but they are not quite like anyone else. They have this enormous privilege which protects them and surrounds them and actually keeps them away from real life. They do not understand what it's like to have to get up in the morning and go to work and actually have to survive on the product of that work. They do not live by what they do. They are simply handed it on a plate. And I think that automatically breeds a form of corruption in itself, in the sense that you have a feeling of entitlement, which is quite clearly a major ingredient in the personality of Prince Andrew, to an extreme. And I do wonder, actually, whether there's a case here for questioning whether Prince Andrew is wholly sane. I mean, the man has had the most appalling upbringing and being spoiled from the moment he was born. I think that there's at least one or two in this day of name tags for anxieties and mental health, at least a couple that could be attached to Andrew and his arrogance, his boorishness, his inability to see that he is an unpleasant character who is doing the country harm. That is a very strange sort of narcissism, which is almost clinical.
It's quite true. You got to go. You got time for one more question?
One more will do.
One more question. Today, big press conference, Reform 11 o'clock at Dover, talking to Zia, talking to Nigel as well. They say that they will pledge if they win election a visa ban on Pakistan and 5 other countries with high Muslim populations that refuse to take back illegal migrants. They will deport 300,000 a year in what is being called by certain papers an ICE-style removal force. I know you got to go. Just love your response to that quickly.
I'd be wary of aligning anything with ICE. ICE.
That's the left-wing press are doing that. That's not
if that's the case, because they don't want that, because what ICE have done is shot 2 of their own citizens dead.
But as Zia Yusuf said half an hour ago, that those sorts of people don't carry weapons in this country, but there will be a backlash and people will get upset. No,
but public opinion in America shows that it's minus 60% approval rating for ICE, 30% down in the last 2 months. And I think if you're going to go after people who are the worst of the worst, as Donald Trump said, and maybe Reform would agree with, I don't know, that's fine. When you're getting, gay Ecuadorian hairdressers being scooped off the street because they look foreign, that is not a thing I want to be involved with. I think if people aren't working, I can see the point of going, what are you contributing? Should you really be here? I get that sort of argument. If you were doing what Stephen Miller, the Chief of Staff to the President of the United States, does, which is we have a target of 1 million a year to go, what does that mean? Are we just going to scoop people up into that 1 million just because you need to hit your target? I don't want it targeted. I want it targeted not on numbers, but on ethics and whatever else, and what is your contribution? I think that I understand. If it's going to go down that route of things in America, not a fan of it.
You have to go. He's very busy. He's got an agent now, so we'll cut back to... Thank you very much indeed, Torbitt. I'll give you a call later. Let's go to back to Trevor. Trevor, what do you make of the reform? This was going to be announced at 11 o'clock today. I said to Zia and I said to Nigel earlier, you are going to meet tremendous backlash, right? Are you ready for that? Both of them talk about how they have the will, they have the nerve. It will definitely split opinion, but there are many in this country, millions, who now believe that the time has come for politicians who won't cow down to what is seen as, a leftist view or popular belief, whatever you want to call it.
I think the time has not just come, I think it's long overdue. The question is, Jeremy, is it possible to do any of the things that are being mooted by reform about actually deporting people? Don't forget that in America, when ICE is dealing with these illegal immigrants, they are literally from countries which have no direct connection with the USA. They've come illegally and crossed the borders illegally. That is true in cases of say, Afghanistan migrants and some from the Middle East. But Pakistan and Bangladesh and the other countries are part of the Commonwealth, and we have a huge population of legitimate, born in Britain, Commonwealth citizens who originally come from those countries. And what you're doing, if you start arresting people and sending them back, deporting them, you are building a recipe for civil war. I think that the Muslim population simply will not tolerate it.
I think there has to be a definition from whichever political party puts this forward. We're talking about reform in this instance. I mean, I tell the story, Trevor, you've heard it before, the guy that picks me up at night, came here 40 years ago, has built a business, learnt our language, loves and respects Britain. I think there's a massive difference. But he's more angry about illegal migration than I am, right? More than me. So I think there's a difference, and I think you have to be very careful. Certain migration has worked massively well for this country, but it's out of control. And if you've got illegal men coming here for nothing more than the reason to screw our benefit system and attack our women, sorry, but it's a fact, then those have to be dealt with forcibly. But you can't have a blanket approach, can you?
No, you can't. And you were dealing with this earlier about the policewoman who was dealing with the case in
Whitechapel.
In Whitechapel, and she was doing it very calmly and with considerable assurance for a young woman dealing with hostile men who have a view about women in any case. But that is a rarity, an extreme rarity. She is just one of a kind. And it isn't going to happen across the country, especially in areas where the political correctness and the attitude towards immigration, which is basically open doors, is already entrenched. It's really very difficult to unpick that and put it back 10, 20 years. It's not possible.
Just very quickly, I just wanted your political view, very, very, very quickly. The Green Party, I have to call us out for the second time today, they're having a vote on whether, Hamas-type attack should be supported by the Green Party. I mean, it's an extraordinary political party. We don't have to talk about elections or anything like that, but they seem to be getting mad by the moment, and enough people are calling it out, Trevor.
I think we should rebrand them the Anarchist Party, because that is exactly what they are. They do not believe in the normal codes and conduct of an established society, the one that we live in, which is under threat from the very people that they represent. And I mean, what they're doing is stirring up all the sort of problems we've sort of been leading up to here in communities like in Gordon and in other parts of the world where we do have very mixed communities, some of which operate as if they are the dominant political force, as we saw in Whitechapel. This is a Muslim area. And they are pandering to those pro-Gaza protesters and will probably do very well out of it in this by-election. It is eminently possible that we'll see Zach Polanski's first MP elected under his leadership to the House of Commons.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. He's an interesting character. I have a name for him. I won't do it now. Trevor, thank you, my friend. Are you giving up hope, or are you just keeping on fighting and believing we can ever get this country back?
I'm treading water, but floundering.
Bless you. We love having you on. Trevor Kavanagh, former political editor of The Sun. Thank you very much indeed.